You are listening to the audio portion of the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
Welcome everybody to another QB Power Hour. We're very glad to have you joining us for the special one today. It is Roadmap to Advisory Services with Path by Simplex. So I'm very glad to see a lot of you joining us today. As you know, my name is Michelle Long, CPA with an MBA in entrepreneurship, owner of Long for Success, author of some books. You can check them out on Amazon. Very glad to have you joining us. And as a reminder, join us in that Facebook group. It's a very active group out there with over 10,000 members. You can continue the discussion out there. Dan, how about you?
Yeah, my name is Dan DeLong, co-host today, owner of Danwith, formerly of Intuit. Spent about almost 18 years there, and now technical editor for the QBO for Dummies series. We're actually up to the seventh edition coming up this year. And my new project is Chief Content Creator at Schoolofbookkeeping.com.
Very good. And we have a special guest joining us today. Rob, you want to join us and introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Chandler with Path by Simplex Financials. I've been in the fintech space for over 25 years. You might know me as the founder of Cloud9 Realtime, which we exited and sold that company in 2017. Thought retirement life was for me, but found out that this is kind of in my DNA. So just glad to be back in the fintech space.
Well,
like the
glad.
Godfather. Keeps pulling you back in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So.
And we're glad to have you back, Rob. Yeah, I know you from way back, when you were in your Cloud9 days and you did a cloud conference. I forgot the name of your cloud conference, but you were one of the
Cloud
first.
Fest.
Yes, one of the first ones. And as part of full disclosure, I do want to let everybody know that I know Rob from many years ago. And, I heard about Path that they were creating and I was highly interested. And the more I learned about it, the more I liked. So I am part of their advisory board and I got a teeny tiny little piece of share of the stock. So I just wanted to put that out there in full disclosure. But that's how much I am impressed by Path and the possibilities and how much I love it. So Rob, we're very glad to have you join us today. Just
Thank
real
you,
quickly,
Michelle, thank you, Dan.
Just real quickly, our power hours are every other Tuesday at noon Eastern. Today is a special event with Rob and talking about advisory services with Pat. Next week, we'll be talking about AP enhancements with Relay. August 3rd, we've got our QBO Advanced Feature Deep Dive. It's worth the wait. We finally have Hector, the reporting enhancements. I know we've had to reschedule that one a number of times. So those of you that have been waiting for it, let's cross our fingers. August 3rd, we will have a QB Power Hour reunion with Hector joining us. And then we'll have Niche Nuances with Geeta again on August 17th. There are the links to the PDF of the slides, the recordings, as well as the podcast if you want to listen to that while you're on the go. All right, so our agenda for today is improving client communications and roadblocks, and we're going to be talking about Path by Simplex, and Rob is going to go in and give us a demonstration and show us how cool this is. And I think it is an amazing tool. If you're wanting to provide advisory services, maybe you're just getting started or maybe you're already doing it, this is an amazing tool that you're going to want to have in your toolbox to be able to provide these advisory services efficiently and effectively for your clients. So I'm really glad you guys are joining us to see and learn more about this with us. So first of all, Dan, you want to go ahead and log our first poll question?
Absolutely. And while this is launching here, if you have any specific questions as we're going through this webinar today, go ahead and put those in the Q&A rather than the chat. It's a lot easier to answer them as they come in the chat or in the Q&A, because the chat just tends to keep scrolling by and we want to miss those. So if you have like things to say about Michelle's puppy, yeah, put it in the chat. But if you have some specific questions about what it is that we're presenting here today, put them in the Q&A, because we do have Jessica from Path who can answer some specific Path questions in the Q&A. So Q&A for questions and chat for chatting.
Great. All right. And yes, the puppy is being a devil dog today. I've got another chew stick ready to go because he's chewing and eating everything in sight, including my desk. So right now he's eating his bed. Anyway, so Rob, would you like to tell us about Path and like how you embarked on it? Because you built one firm successfully with Cloud9, you sold it, you cashed out, you were sitting on the beach with those little umbrella drinks, enjoying your life after selling out, and now you're back. What brought you back into the whole QBO ecosystem and the world of accounting?
So yeah, no, I think it takes me back to, when I got into, business, started in the newspaper days, and it was all about customer service. And also, when I got into the accounting vertical, it was all about how, us accountants can help small businesses. And, speaking to small businesses, serving them in the technology world, but also selling the accounting professionals and talking to them, together individually, I just found that, there was a disconnect, and where the disconnect really came, was in technology and sharing information. That's why Cloud9 was, created. We took QuickBooks Desktop and we moved it to the cloud. And now we've seen, software as a service really take the forefront of the technology and delivering, software products. And so, I wanted to see small businesses be successful. I found that small businesses were failing because they really didn't understand the important metrics of their business and what was the important aspects of being successful and what was driving those profits, what was driving those expenses. And so that's really the reason why I felt that it was still in my blood, is coming out, creating technology that accounting professionals can use with small businesses, and in creating that dialogue and communication around that, and allowing them to share information, and really hone in on what aspects of the business makes the business successful.
And I just realized that I launched the wrong poll for the first poll. So let me go ahead and launch that first one, which is what roadblocks, because you just mentioned that, what roadblocks interfere with your client communications the most. And these are multiple choice, so you can enter in more than one here. And I think from my perspective, I get in my own way a lot when I'm talking. Whether I want to talk to my clients, or if I feel like what I have is of value to talk to them, I think that's the biggest roadblock for me, in working with my clients. And the more I see Path, the more I see this being a valuable tool to add to those value added services that you can add to your utility belt or tool belt of suite of services that you could offer.
Yeah. And, Dan, talking about roadblocks, you and I were talking about that just before this started, under data overload on there and disconnected stuff, finding things, Dan knows the struggle is real with me. I'm constantly like, Dan, where's the slides? Because with Dan, he and I use Google Drive and we store the slides in there, but yet with Intuit, a lot of our training materials are in Box, and with other people, I have things in OneDrive. And so the struggle is real trying to find something, and the number of hours that I waste looking for things has got to really add up over the months and years and stuff. And that's where, with a tool like Path, there's ways that you can save it and bookmark it and put it in there so that it's easy to search and find things no matter the location. And whereas with our clients, you might be getting communications from your clients from everywhere. This is nice because you've got it in one central hub. So I just really love that. And Dan,
look at the results here.
Yeah.
All the things.
Yes.
Are all of the above.
Yeah, the struggle is real for all of us and for our clients, isn't it? So, okay, great. So, well, and as this slide says, improving our client communications, what's right and stuff. And now the time for actually doing and implementing a tool like Path, the time has never been better to do this, because our clients now are curious. They, using QuickBooks Online, they're seeing up-to-date information and everything. They're starting to get curious about the data, and you can pique their curiosity. You can send them little notes. Did you know that in your industry, the average gross profit margin is 55% or something like that? You can help pique their curiosity. A lot of these small businesses right now actually have cash to spend because our economy has opened back up. They're back to work. Maybe they got some PPP money. They've got some money available to spend now because things are flowing and moving again. And a lot of these businesses are actually having the problem of too much, too many orders and back orders and things like that. But now more than ever, they need that clarity. They need to be able to cut through all of these data roadblocks. So I think the time has never been better for Path. Dan, what are you seeing in the communications and struggles with clients?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that the past 18 months has taught to businesses is that, the getting lean, as far as, do I need a location, or do I need, all these extra people that I used to throw, manpower at? And then you've kind of gotten a lot leaner, and now that they're leaner, they're meaner, in terms of, okay, well, now that I've gotten myself in shape, so to speak, with my business, now how do I grow? And needing that information. Now, we were talking, I was talking to one of my clients, and now he is growing tremendously, selling stuff on Amazon and his own website. And now he really wants to, he's spent so much, as far as marketing. Now he wants to know, well, okay, well, in order to get more investors in his business, he's now they're asking these questions. Okay, well, how much do you spend on, customer acquisition costs? And that was what was kind of drove me, to seeking something out for him so that we could get that information, at a moment's notice.
And Dan, that's a great point. These clients are wanting more of that information, and that's where we can overcome the roadblocks and really overcome some of these challenges that we all said, all of the above, the missed signals by having data in too many places and communicating with clients through email, through Slack, through text, data overload with too much info, those disconnect where we're not connecting with the client. They're busy running their business and we're busy just, looking at the back end side of things. We really need to connect with those clients and have that meaningful communication so we can have that collaboration with our client. And this is where Path really comes in and can be the tool to help overcome all of these roadblocks, especially as we're working on that collaboration with our client as their partner, helping them in advisory services to grow their business, to know what is your client acquisition cost. And Dan, I think that is a great example. And Rob, would you want to go ahead and go into Path? And then when you get to the data mash part, you can show us and show Dan how we can do the calculation for client acquisition costs and things like that.
Yes, no, definitely. And I'm going to bring up my screen here, which everybody should be seeing here in a second. So I'm showing that everybody's seeing my screen. Great. So yeah, I will be jumping into data mash here in a second. And thanks, Michelle and Dan, for that overview. I think some of the things that you discussed there are definitely very important, and we'll be touching on that. And if you, again, like Michelle said, if you have any questions, use the Q&A. We'll get to those questions here as they come in. First thing I want to let you know is I'm logged in. The demo that we're going to use today is Wilson's Steakhouse, but I wanted to kind of show you is when you're the accountant and you log into the account, you're able to see just not your firm's information, but all your clients. So in this example, I have Express Accounting, which is the accounting firm. I have Wilson's Steakhouse, and I have Jones Roofing Service. So that's nice. You don't have to, log in and log out to move from one client to the next. The other nice thing about this is if you ever have to send a message out to all your clients, say you have an emergency taking place, or maybe, something is down in the industry or technology, you can use this broadcast button up here in the right-hand corner. And then you can basically share a message out to everybody. You can share it to all companies, or you can share it to individual companies. So that's one thing that's super nice, is you can, again, be in contact with your clients anytime, anywhere. And, when your clients want to contact you, if they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and, they're worried about maybe their cash flow, or they're worried about their cash on hand, or maybe a calculation that needs to be done, they can reach out to you. They don't need to bug you through an email or a text message or a phone call. They can use the Path portal to communicate with you. You'll receive notification right away on that, and then you can start communicating. In fact, you'll see, Mary Adams down here in our timeline, which is our communication channel. And Mary's basically says, I'll be out of the office on Friday, July 16th. If you need anything from us, let us know. And Dan Wilson came back and said, great, I'd like to set up a meeting with you the week of July 19th. We've seen an increase in sales since we've hired our marketing manager. I believe we need to hire a new assistant chef to assist with growth. And then Mary comes back and says, great, I can meet with you on July 20th. So just interaction, communication, anything that you want to share on the timeline, whether it's a calculation, whether it's a milestone, you can do that. What's nice about this is you can, and I'm just kind of scrolling through this, you can make this information private. So if you just want to send it to maybe, an individual, so maybe I just want to send a message out to Dan Wilson, I don't want anybody else to see it in the company, I can do that as well. So you have definitely security permissions that you can set up, whether they're individual users or groups. And so you have that security aspect when it comes to documents, messages, and calculations, which is super nice. This is a new feature that we've released here in the last 60 days. And so a lot of people are taking advantage of that, because now they can segregate information by users or by groups. That's kind of the timeline. On the top is our milestones. So milestones are broken down into two categories. The first category it's broken down into is either if it's company related or it's private related, which I'll be showing everybody an example. And then there's three ways that you can track your milestones. They can either be neutral, they can be negative, or they can be positive. So you have the positive on the green, you have the neutral on the blue, and then you have the negative on the actual red. And so you can see exactly what's taking place. You can set goals for clients and see if those milestones are being achieved or not. So that's a nice way to see an overview. And on the right-hand side is our to-do list. So many times clients might call you and say, hey, when is this due? Or what are you currently working on? If you want to, you can put your to-dos list there. So when the client logs in, they can see exactly what's going on with their business and what tasks that you're currently working on from the accounting side.
Hey, Rob, go ahead, Dan.
I think we were probably going to ask the same question, Michelle.
Go ahead.
You assign tasks to the client?
Yes, it's exactly. So the way that you can do this is you can just say, I need, a W-2 form, and you can just come right over here and assign that to Dan Wilson. You can assign a date to it and put say on the 23rd. When I hit enter, that task has now just been assigned to Dan Wilson. As you can see, he has two tasks. He can click on this one because that one's been completed, and it shows that it's now checked off of his list.
And then how do they get notified? Are they bugged with an email, or do they just have notifications inside the dashboard on the bridge here, or how are they notified that there is even something to do?
Yeah, great question. Sorry about that. I need some.
I know you get choked up about it.
I know. So currently you get notified through the notifications. We're releasing here really soon where you're going to be able to turn on the feature of receiving text messages or email messages. So if something comes out and you can set those notifications, maybe it's just you want to be notified based upon a to-do list item or a timeline item or a new calculation. But right now, you just receive the notification underneath your notification tab that you log in. As you can see there, I'm underneath the notification tab, and there's 9 notifications that I have not read or looked at. And so when I click on that, I can see those actual notifications. So I want to be notified as an accountant if a new vendor has been created. Maybe I'm tracking, fraud or those type of things. And so I can see exactly what's taking place. If I don't want to, going through and read each individual one of them, I can just go over here and mark as read, and that's going to clear out my notifications.
And Rob, something I kind of wanted to point out on that timeline, or I'm sorry, not the timeline, the milestones. One of the things that's really nice about that is in the future, when you're running comparative financials and you want to say like, how come our sales this month was down? Or when you're budgeting for next year, it's nice to look back at that and say, oh, this is when we closed for 2 weeks from COVID. This is when we reopened, or this is when there was construction on the street and it affected our sales, or this is when we had a storm and we were closed for a few days. And, so you might think that you're not going to forget some of those big events or milestones, but you do. And so like when you're budgeting next year, you need to keep in mind, hey, well, that month was lower because of this, or it was higher because of a special promotion. It helps you when you're looking back or looking forward to kind of remember big events and different milestones that happen. So I think that's awesome being able to keep that there. I know, in the budgeting and things that I've done in the past, that was always something that would come up is, what happened to affect things in the past and people couldn't remember. So I love having those milestones like that.
Yeah, one of the main reasons why this was actually created was with the growth of Cloud9. I was hiring managers, I was hiring executives, and every time I hired someone, it was like, your puppy dog, Michelle, following you around, for the first 6 months of their life, right? I mean, they wanted to know what took place in the business. And, this gives them a diary. This gives them an insight of actually what took place. Like, for example, Dan Wilson mentioned he hired a new marketing manager. I don't even have to ask Dan when that marketing manager was hired. It's right there on the milestone. It was Nancy Smith was hired on May 3rd. And so it just saves a lot of time, and you can see exactly what's taking place in the business, and you can see when the business shut down for COVID and when it opened back up. And, so going back to this, I wanted to just show you, we have, Mary here, and you can see her little icon or avatar right there. She only has access to that, the actual milestone. So if I come over here and click on private, you can do milestones based upon just maybe for your information. So for example, if I want to do a new milestone, it walks you through a series of questions. Is it company related? Is it private related? What date did it take place? Was it negative? Was it positive? Was it neutral? I can put a title, I can put a description, I can choose an icon if related to something that I see there. I can upload an image or a report or, a picture or anything that I want to right there. And then I can publish it out. Again, if I don't want anybody to see it, but I want to use it for my resource, I can just make sure I check the box private.
And then you can edit it later if you're not carving anything in stone with regards to these milestones. You can edit it after the fact. Oh, yeah, you shouldn't have seen that. Put it back.
Yeah, so if I wanted to change, that date from the 15th to the 18th, just, click on that, scroll down to the bottom and save it. And now it's changed it from the 13th to the 18th.
So I love that this tool allows me to communicate with all my individual clients, plus it allows the clients to communicate within their company. So, a lot of times your clients and their employees, the employees may feel like they're out of the loop. They don't know what's going on. This can help the client communication within their company, as well as our communication between us and our clients as well. So I see this too as a win-win to help us and to help our clients.
No, definitely. I mean, it's capturing all the information. It's giving the transparency in one place. And, there's no, where did we keep this information? Going back, trying to find an email or going into payroll records or looking at maybe something, trying to figure out when a historical date took place in the business.
And we're starting to get some questions in the Q&A that are kind of relative to what you're talking about. But and I think what might help, Rob, is maybe take a step back and say what path is, like, or maybe what it isn't, because that's what we, as accountants and bookkeepers and accounting professionals, we want to know what this is like and what it's not like, to really kind of understand. Because right now you've only touched on two things that it does, and that's just the communication piece. And there's a lot more for you to show us. But I think what we might want to take a step back is, can you create your own milestones? Is this complementary to Live Plan? What is PATH in general? Is there an app for it? Does it only work with what does it work with or integrate with as far as QuickBooks?
No, that's a great question. So today PATH works with QuickBooks Online. There's about 5.6 million users of QuickBooks Online. So that's the reason why we started in that. Our roadmap is Sage and Xero down the road. We are looking to integrate with Zapier. I always pronounce it wrong, but that integrates with over 2,000 applications. We should be rolling that out here within the next 6 months. But what PATH is PATH is a platform to have those meaningful conversations, to communicate high level of things that are taking place in the business, and then being able to track key KPIs or metrics for the business, which we'll be getting into in a second, and really just creating conversations around how to improve the business, overall, how to grow the revenues, how to grow, maximize the profits, how to reduce expenses, really get a really handle on where you should be and your staff should be utilizing their time and making that business more successful. It is not a CRM system. So if you're looking, to utilize this as a customer relationship management, keep track of, contact information and those type of things, overall, you probably how to grow the revenues, how to grow. Oops, I'm hearing an echo in my ear, but it went away. But it's not a customer relationship management system. There's other great solutions out there that can be a part of your toolbox when it comes to PATH with this.
And Rob, I know you're going to get into the data mesh because we've got some questions about that, like on the industry comparison. And sure. It is not just other users of PATH. It is actually pulling, I think, isn't it from RMA, Rob, the RMA Associates, Robert Morris Associates?
So I'm just going to jump down there and I'll jump in this in a second. Okay. Yes, it's pulling information from RMA. So RMA is the industry leaders. They basically go out there and gather the financial information. And as you can see, Wilson Steakhouse is a full service restaurant. So it's pulling that SIC code, which you set up in your company settings. So you want to make sure you're mapping your, when you're adding your QuickBooks file, one of the questions it's going to ask you is, what is that SIC code, which you can obtain that from most likely a tax return. And then that's going to, that's going to pull your, that's going to pull the industry average. For an example, this is a current ratio calculation, and the total comes out to 3.32. The industry average is 0.90, and the goal was 2.50. So you're actually beating that goal. And then these are the different marks that's showing you on here. So it's showing you, the blue is showing you exactly how you're doing as a business. The green is your goal, and then the orange is the industry standard. So it's pulling that information from QuickBooks. Again, don't have to access QuickBooks, just do the connection. Down in the left-hand corner, you see that last time it synced was at midnight. There has not been any new information been inputted into QuickBooks. The system looks for transactions every 30 seconds. So PATH is done in real time. So if you input a new vendor, you record a new deposit, it's going to change all the dashboard and KPI metrics right away. So it's not updating like 3 or 4 times a day. It's literally updating every 30 seconds.
And Rob, for accountants and bookkeepers that are wanting to do these advisory services and things, I think this is where having these industry averages is a great place to start with advisory services with our clients. Talking with your clients, did you know the industry average for your industry when it comes to gross profit margin is XYZ? Or the industry average, let's say what they're spending on their cost of labor or what they're spending on their food costs. By being able to see what the industry averages are, then you can help. Oh, am I muted, Dan? Sorry, am I muted?
No, we hear you.
No, we hear you.
We hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. But anyway, I think that this is a great tool to help us with that. And by pulling that in automatically, that's pretty big because it's hard to get industry numbers without paying. You can get some out at bizstats.com. They're free, but then you're exporting to Excel and you're doing it out there and you're wasting a lot of time every month trying to do this. Versus here, you can create these and then have it automatically recalculate and update, like Rob said, based on the information from QuickBooks. So this, I think, is helpful for us providing those advisory services with our clients.
No, definitely. And, it's something that's really important. I think it's valuable too. I mean, to have a license with RMA, it's not a cheap license. In fact,
Right.
if I wanted to go out there and just obtain that license for my accounting firm, it just wouldn't be something that would be profitable at all. But, it's just a small piece that we carve out for each basically user, which makes it then very affordable to get the industry averages and so forth. So just moving along, the Impact Center talks about the accounts payable and accounts receivable. Again, what's great about this, and I was talking to an accounting professional yesterday, Michelle and Dan, and they were saying one thing that we really love about Path is we don't have to give our clients access to QuickBooks, and they can come in and access all the information, and they're not going to hurt the QuickBooks file from integrity or change a transaction or change or modify, a deposit or modify an expense or anything. It's kind of like we can give them access to this. They can see exactly what's going on in the business. We can then do the bookkeeping and making sure everything's recorded. So this accountant says I feel like we have control of the client's books. And, that was one thing that was really super cool. But, I can see exactly how much the customers owe us, how much we owe vendors. I can see where my customers and vendors are located throughout the United States, actually throughout the actual world. And then down here, I can see who actually owes me money. The blue is customers, the vendors are orange. I can then sort that if I wanted to. Then I can click on, say I wanted to click on Jump World. I can click on Jump World and get a transaction history of that. Again, I'm not even accessing QuickBooks. So now you're giving power to the clients to see exactly what's taking place. I have an invoice here that's open. I can set and add a to-do list, ask Mr. Wilson to go out there and collect that payment so I can be active in what's taking place in the business. And so anything that's AR, AP related, you can find that in industry comparisons. What's nice on the menu on the left-hand side, it's all set by user permission. So maybe you don't want, Mr. Wilson to have access to data mash. You can turn that feature off and that disappears on the toolbar. And then jumping over to the business snapshot is a really, go ahead.
Rob, before you do, one more thing I'd like to add about that Impact Center is, let's say, for example, you've got a client, we all use Craig's Design and Landscaping. So let's say you got a client that's got a landscaping company. You can, that's probably local, they're providing landscaping services local. You can drill down within a city. So, Rob's showing the United States here, but you could actually see, like, for your city, you could geographically see where all your customers are. So you can start deciding, do I need to have a crew dedicated to the east side of town and a crew for the west side? Do we have enough customers now on the south side of town to support a crew dedicated to that area? So you can help the clients to make decisions like this that are going to impact their business by seeing, where their customers are from and things like this. So, I think that that's pretty cool. And as you mentioned, being able to let salespeople have access to this without having them be a user in QuickBooks. I think that's kind of cool as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you Michelle, you brought out a very good point there. And yes, I mean, definitely what's nice is, again, like Michelle said, you can segregate the permissions. Dan, you were going to say something?
No, I was talking with a pest control company, and their ultimate goal for the city of Tucson was to have one company, but 5 segments in the different parts of town. This, just what Michelle was talking about would be a way for them to know, okay, when is it okay to have a northwest side, south side, he called them fiefdoms, because he wanted to rule the pest control industry in Tucson.
And then before we jump into the main component, which is the data mash, which I know a lot of people love, is jumping into the business snapshot. And this is one of my coolest features because this really drills down into what is the business worth. I remember when I was back at Cloud9 sitting around with my board of directors and my investment banker, and he's like, Rob, what is your magic number? And he slipped me a piece of paper and I wrote it down on paper and he goes, I like your magic number, but guess what? You're not there. And I kind of gave him that frown face. And then he says, but I got good news. If we can change the behavior of the business and change some things in the business, we can get you that magic number that you want. And that's what really spun me off on this business snapshot, because I think a lot of business owners want to know what their business is worth. Because either one or three things are going to happen with the business owner. They are either going to pass that business on to, maybe their family. They're going to die with their business, or they're going to basically say, okay, I'm going to push in my chips and I'm going to cash out. And that's the analogy that I ended up doing is I put $100 in the slot machine, pulled the handle, and next thing you know, it was a big payday for me. But for me to get there, I needed to know what behavior changes I needed to make. So you can use this what if scenario. And if I make changes by say, hey, if I just increase my earnings by $100,000, I think my business, because I got a lot of automation in place, is worth a 5X. I can now double my value of my business by just making a couple changes behavior in the business. And so that's something that's really key is I know there's so many different ways to evaluate businesses, but this gives you the EBITDA approach, which a lot of businesses, and multiply, which a lot of people that come in and value businesses look at. These are probably the top two. And so this will give you that calculation of what the business is worth.
Rob, the other thing that I love about this is in there, you've got the line for owner benefits. So many times they don't realize how they're taking money out of the business affects the free cash flow and the value of the business. And this is a great and easy way to illustrate that to them, particularly like you said, if like in your situation, if you're wanting to sell the company, you're going to want to maximize your free cash flow and maximize that value and stuff. And so it helps us communicating with the client to have this tool available pretty quick and easy. So I do think that's a great tool, but my favorite tool of all is the data mash.
The data mash. Here we are.
Sounds like something you would get at Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
So is that let's see.
Sorry, I threw you
so
off.
This is the most powerful. This is my favorite thing because, like Michelle said, this is the power in the engine. And data mash. I'm gonna spend some time here because I know a lot of people are gonna have some questions. But this is broken down into the most powerful calculator that I've seen out there without using Excel. One of the things, as you can see up in the left-hand corner right underneath data mash, is I can segregate this by class, customer and jobs, and vendors. So if I want to just look at things individually or by basically departments or classes or those type of things, I can utilize that. And then I can display things either by a number, bar graph, line graph. And then I can convert things to either a currency or a percentage or default, which is just a number. And then one of the things that's super cool is when you create a calculation, you can save that calculation. You can push that calculation out on the timeline, which you'd view in the bridge, or you can automate that calculation, or you can save that calculation underneath bookmarks, which I haven't covered yet. I'll kind of jump back to bookmarks at the end because the bookmarks is kind of where you create your dashboards and where you create these calculations and you push the calculations on the bookmarks where again, it's that custom dashboard where the business owner can see all those important things that are taking place. But for demonstration purposes, we have created 30 saved calculations. About 20 of these were already preloaded. So the ones that down at the bottom, these are preloaded with each account. So again, you're not out there starting from scratch. We're going to help you out and create 20. as you're creating any of these KPIs, if you ever need assistance with any of this, you just contact us through the live chat. We can help you get on and create any of the calculations that you're trying to create. And you might be saying, Rob, where's this information being pulled from? Well, that's going to be pulled from the data library. So we currently have 3 places where data is being pulled from. The first is the QuickBooks options. So anything that has a chart of account or report that can be pulled from QuickBooks, that's going to be a data library option. The next item, and I'm just scrolling through here and you can see some of these and you probably recognize some of these chart of accounts. The next item is that user created options. So you can set a calculation in place and create a custom option and then save that for future ones. So here, for example, we have number of covers for the years. That's how many dinners or people that we have served, number of employees, number of tables. I have a profit first percentage. So I want my business to, spin off a 15% profit. I have the square footage for the restaurant. I have our weekly sales goals. And so I've created these calculations because I want to use these calculations in some of my calculations that I'm going to do above. And then the next item is the AP days. The industry average options. So these are taken again from the company settings in the full service restaurants. So if I just click on this AP days right here, I can see that the AP days in a restaurant, a full service restaurant, is an average of 13 days. So if I want to use that as a calculation, I can do that. And so I'm gonna be able to pull my industry averages in. And so again, QuickBooks options, custom created user options, and then RMA. Again, we're going to be adding in that integration with Zapier, which is over 2,000 integrations. That's going to be coming here pretty quickly. But the way I want to do is I can just clear this. And I'm going to jump in and just show you some of the calculations that we created. And, Dan and Michelle, feel free to jump in and share your thoughts. But the first one I'm going to bring up is advertising marketing per cover. So I've created this calculation into 2 folds. So I can do multiple calculations. The first one I did is I took my advertising and marketing expense and I divided it by 6 months. So this calculation is for the first 6 months of 2021. So I'm averaging about $8,500 a month in advertising and marketing expenses. Now I want to know, well, how much is that per person that's walking through the restaurant that I'm serving? And that's $3.37 that I'm spending on per basically person that I'm serving in the restaurant. So I know exactly, hey, if I go out and spend $10,000 a month, this should increase my revenues. And then I can actually track that back to see if I'm hitting that $3.37 mark. Dan and Michelle, go ahead.
Well, and Rob, this is where, I think this is great because we're able to combine the QuickBooks data with the non-QuickBooks, or the financial with the non-financial data. Like you said, the number of covers, like sales per square foot. By putting the square footage in there, you can calculate that. The sales by table, if you put the tables in there, you could calculate that. Sales by servers, or, like Dan brought up, I want to know the customer acquisition cost. So let's say you wanted to know that. Well, let's say we're going to run a special promotion, and you know how you'll see ads that have a special coupon code, like let's say QBPH is a QuickBooks code. So let's say you've got your CRM over here and you're tracking your new customers and your new clients or whatever. You can say, okay, how many new customers did I get from the month from that particular promotional campaign? So in QuickBooks, you could create the calculation. You create an account for, special promo for July or whatever it is.
Yeah, or you can classify it as well.
Yeah.
You can throw a class in there.
So you can pull that marketing expense for that promotion from QuickBooks, divided by your user created option, the number of new customers, to calculate your customer acquisition costs. And once Zapier is working, you could have it automatically pull from your CRM the number of new customers. So you can automate something that, think about how much time that would spend you to calculate every month without having it all in one tool like this. So this is I think this is huge. This is the big part of the whole thing, because a lot of these tools that we see out in the app store will have the normal KPIs, those 20 or so that you said, are automatic down there, like your quick ratio, your current ratio, gross profit margin, net profit margin, current, all those down there are your standard KPIs. But being able to create your own industry specific, business specific calculations like that, I think that's just huge.
Well, Michelle, if you think about this, I mean, if you were doing this monthly for a client and say you had 7 or 8 unique KPIs, like, we're talking about right now, you would have to export, you'd have to, number one, run the report in QuickBooks, right? You'd have to export that out to Excel. Then you would have to format that. Then you would have to bring in those calculations. And then how long would that take? I mean, you're talking probably at least an hour and a half every single time. Guess what? Once you set these reports up, you can share them automatically. So if I slide this to the right, that's going to share that calculation automatically every single Monday. It's saying I'm going to run this report every single Monday. It's going to show up on the dashboard. As me being the accountant or business owner, I can see exactly what's taking place. Didn't even touch QuickBooks, except for keeping QuickBooks current and up to date on the information. And you're not utilizing Excel and doing all those customizations any longer.
And Rob, this is what makes providing advisory services efficient and effective for us. It's not effective when we spend all that time each month doing it in Excel, doing it manually. It's hard to get the client to compensate us when we're spending that much time and everything. But with a tool like this, it's easy for the client to see the value. Let's just say a simple KPI like gross profit margin. We've got a Wilson Steakhouse here. So if their gross profit margin is deteriorating, if their gross profit margin is below the industry average, we can then talk to them, about that. What are the components of your gross profit margin? Your sales and your cost of goods sold, your food costs. So maybe our food costs are too high. Do we need to get new suppliers to get our food costs under control? Do we need to train our employees better so there's less waste on the food and things like that? Maybe you've got employees that aren't ringing up every sale, and that might be a problem. So sales might be too low. Maybe they're giving their friends and family, supersized meals instead of the standard, so that can affect their food costs. But by being able to quickly and efficiently see these things, we can then provide those advisory services on improving your gross profit margin, which is ultimately improving their profitability. So, I just love this tool.
Now that you've shown everything, I'm going to relaunch that poll. So now people actually know what they're what they're answering. Which of these features appeals to you the most? It's kind of interesting. When I pre-launched the the question, it was kind of like across the board, but I can see people answering already. The data mesh is the clear front runner. I don't want to influence the voting, but
it's my favorite.
No, and that's the lead horse, right? I mean, we know that this is the power. I mean, just to get this, technology working, it was months on months on months. Michelle, you are aware of that because we were keeping you posted of all those developments. But this was definitely the engine. This is the engine and drives the car, drives the business to success. One of the things I want to jump over right after you finish up and end the poll, which I see about 65% of people have voted, is, jumping over to the bookmarks, because this is where you take these numbers and then you publish them off to a bookmarks and keep track of everything that's taking place. And so I think that's important.
One of the questions that just came in is, can you add these KPI milestones to milestones? So you can add those, you can share those with the client, right? As a milestone or just a bookmark.
You can put, you can share them on the timeline and you can share them on the timeline and you can share them on the bookmarks. But one thing that's kind of cool is back underneath industry comparison, we can see if there was an event that took place. Maybe for some reason, when I'm doing this through Zoom, it's not showing up, but you can see there was a milestone that was created along this time frame. This would actually publish that out. I don't know why. I think it's because if it's an image that's popping up for some reason, but you would see decisions being made would impact this. You would see those milestones right here. For some reason, when I do the Zoom, it doesn't show up, but when you do it in your real account, you'll see it.
And Rob, I like that up in the upper right there, automate sharing ratio. So you can automatically share this to your client's timeline so they see it. Maybe you want them to see this every week, on Tuesday or something. You can set it up so that it automatically creates and shares that with them, so they're seeing that on a regular basis. So, and yeah, that's great. Thanks, Rob, showing this
no problem.
Dashboard.
And Rob, this is this something that you can that can be white labeled like as your own thing, or is it something that they would know what's behind the curtain?
What's behind the curtain? Well, as you can see, we don't have a lot of path, branding on this. Of course, the URI is path by basically, Simplex. But again, you can we have it in the plan to down the road. When Mr. Wilson logs in, we have an empty white space underneath QuickBooks where you can put your accounting firm and information. That's something that we have a roadmap, and when you become a user, you can start giving us the feedback, because we develop the technology based upon our users. We believe that's very important. Again, that goes back to customer success and customer satisfaction. And so one of the things that the users are asking for right now is, I want to be able to put my accounting firm information right below the QuickBooks logo. And so that's something that we're going to be adding here in the future.
And Rob, you might just point out again where I can see it up there in the upper left. That's where you can have your client logo and the client company name, and that's where you can switch back and forth between multiple clients. And when Mr. Wilson logs in, he only accesses Wilson Steakhouse, or maybe he's an owner of 2 companies, and so you'd only see his 2 companies. But again, you would see all your companies. And jumping into the bookmark. Where does the bookmarks basically start? They can start right here on the bridge. And so I'm going to just kind of go back to the bridge, and then I'm going to show back to the bookmarks. And I know we have to get into Q&A, but for an example, this conversation, I basically bookmarked it as meeting notes. So when something's taking place on the bridge, if I want to bookmark this conversation, I can bookmark this. So if I scroll down here and just start to look at some of my calculations, there's table income per month. That's actually on my dashboard bookmark. And as I continue to scroll through, this one's not here, but if I wanted to put this one on my dashboard or my custom created folders, I can do that as well. So that takes me over to the bookmarks, which I'm just going to kind of walk through and show everybody this to a certain extent. So one of the questions that you want to ask is, when you set these bookmarks up, which bookmarks should you basically utilize? And so for demonstration purposes, I've created 5. I've created dashboard, where I'm going to put all of my customized KPIs that I've created on Data Mesh. I have my financial report. So anytime I share a financial report with the business owner, I'm going to put it here. As you can see, there was some conversations around that financial report. I can click on that, and that's going to open up the financial report, and I'm going to be able to view it. If there's any meeting notes that I want to keep track, I can. Like, for example, here's this meeting that we're going to have on the 16th. So I can take notes and put it right there in that folder, and I have it, but it's a reference point down the road. But back to the dashboard, this is where I'm creating my important KPIs or metrics that I want to share. So this is days cash on hand. So I can, train the client. We need this number to always be above 90. In this situation, it's 112.88. I can see the net worth of the business is 513,000. I can see my table income per month is $4,000. I keep scrolling down. I can see our net income is 164,000 to date. The owner's distribution, there's been $75,000 been taken out, taken out of the company. I can see the total cash in the bank account, 134,000. So just important metrics. And the beauty of all this is
I didn't even log into QuickBooks and access any of this information.
Rob, the other thing that is so cool is let's say, for example, you're tracking sales per table. In the Wilson Steakhouse, you want to increase the sales per table. This is where you can motivate, you can help your client. You say, okay, we want to get our sales per table up. So you want to motivate the servers to upsell, to sell the appies, the drinks, the desserts, things like that. And that's where you can build incentives in with the employees to help improve the financials. And you can track these kind of things quickly and easily to really make an impact on that business. Or if you want to reduce the food costs and the waste and things, you can see it and track it and see the results from these things. This is where us as accounting professionals can really help with the advisory, and then we're tracking the results and everything. So this is really, I just think, so huge for us as accounting professionals to move way beyond the basic bookkeeping and compliance type of work and into those advisory services. And Rob, I know we could go over this, all day. Unfortunately, I know we are getting to the end here, but what I really want to encourage people to do, if you're interested in this, let them know, and they can do a one-on-one demo with you. You can join webinars with other people where they can go more in depth and continue to answer your questions. Because Rob, he's created a great tool here for us, providing those advisory services quickly, efficiently, but it's high value for your client. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Rob, is there any last thing that you want to share before I wanted to go to the last slides that we have?
No, I think just jumping in the last slide. I know pricing is probably one of those questions, which I know you have a slide on, which we'll talk about here in a second.
Okay, let me go ahead and go to sharing.
I launched the last poll question while you were talking there, Michelle.
All right,
about
thank
any
you.
kind of next step, so that way, if anyone does want to be reached out by Path, you can answer that poll question. We'll provide that to the folks at Path to reach out the way you want to be talked to, right?
Great. And here's just a few, if you guys are wanting to start doing advisory services with your clients, here's a few basic questions that you can get started with. I think everybody, hold on.
Not sharing.
I'm not sharing. I am now, I hope. Hopefully you're seeing advisory service questions to ask.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
There it is.
These are things where you can start the conversation with your client if you haven't done it already. These things are great to talk with new clients, but even if you've had a client you've been using for 5 or 10 years, sit down and have a free 30-minute conversation with them, asking them, what does success look like for you? What is your plan for your business? Do you want to grow it, leave it to your kids? Do you want to grow it? Do you want to sell it? What's keeping you up at night? How can we track and deal with that so that allows you to sleep better and not worry about it? If you can change one thing about your business, what would it be? And that way you're also, how can I help you to do this? What are your most profitable items and services? If they don't know that, you need to help them to track that and understand that so they can focus on those things and maybe eliminate unprofitable products or services. I mean, sometimes they're doing things that they shouldn't be. If you get rid of that, you can focus on those more profitable items and services. Setting financial goals for the year. Talk to them about, when problems arise, who do you turn to? You want them to turn to you. You want to be that trusted partner there. Where are you spending a lot of time in your business? How can we improve upon that? These are just a few questions that you can get going to ask your clients. And Rob's developed this great ebook that you all can download for free. 7 Steps to an Effective Client Communication Strategy. It's a quick ebook to help you along this path to those advisory services and being more effective with our communications and overcoming a lot of those roadblocks that we've talked about that we all face, all of the above. So I encourage you to get to that. Rob, would you like to talk about the pricing?
Yes. So the pricing basically works out at, we have a trusted advisor plan, which includes 3 client accounts for $99. However, we have a special for everybody that's joined us today. That is $49 for 3 clients for the first 3 months if you use the code QB Power QB Power PH QBPH for QuickBooks Power Hour. But yes, this is a great way to basically get set up. When you become a client of Path, you work with most likely myself or one of our team members to implement this, and we'll walk you through and help you do your first calculations and help you set up your bookmarks and help you set up user permissions and those type of things. We also have step-by-step instructions. If you just want to do everything yourself, you can do that. As you can see, it's very easy to use. You just walk through the 10th step to onboard a new client, and that will help you do it. You just put your username and password into the QuickBooks. Depends on the QuickBooks size. It takes about anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to connect and download all the information. All the information that's downloaded is for over the last 5 years. So it's going to definitely capture a lot of information there. And then once a new transaction is added, it syncs automatically. But yes, definitely you can do that by signing up, but using the QBPH code for the first 3 months.
And Rob, do you have just a couple of minutes for a couple of last minute questions here?
Sure.
Okay, I loved Kimberly's. Can a demo be directed for a client without giving away the stuff we would do so that we can charge and look like rock stars? And I love that. So Rob, could you all do a demo for let's say it's somebody like Kimberly and her clients, showing them all the features of the communications tools, the bridge, the timeline, the milestones, showing them those kind of features without really elaborating on a data match or the industry averages and things. So you could share some of the great features that can help our clients while keeping the good stuff for our advisory services from,
the secret sauce.
Yeah,
the secret sauce.
11 herbs and spices you do not want to.
So, yeah, it's this simple. We just recommend that you go to our website and just click on one of the book demo links, and that will reach out to an open schedule of when we're available for demos. And we can set up a pre-call if you want to with the accounting firm first to discuss the scope of the demo with their clients, and we can set that up and customize that demo based upon each individual's needs.
Great. And we got another great question from Steven. How complicated is it to set up a client mapping QBO to Path? Does a client have to download the software? And I know, Rob, you just mentioned that it takes like maybe 5-10 minutes to get the data there, but what all is involved? Once I say, okay, I want to add Wilson Steakhouse to Path, what's involved with the setup and the mapping and things like that?
Well, number one, there's no downloading of software. That's the best thing, just like QuickBooks online. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes at the most. And once you set up your first client, you're probably going to set up your second client in about half that time. So just some basic things that you need to know, like on user permissions, the group permissions override the user settings. So you just need to understand making sure your permissions are set up correctly, and then just walking through and doing a couple simple calculations. Setting up your bookmarks, I recommend using anywhere from 5 to 6 bookmarks. Again, we have some examples, but again, they can be all customized. They can be customized differently. You can have different KPIs and different bookmarks for different businesses and industries. So really, like I said, it takes about no more than 10 minutes per client.
Great. Dan, did you have any questions?
Well, I know we have a lot of people north of the border asking questions about the Canada. Does it work with Canadian version, or is there plans to expand the Canadian versions of QBO?
Yes, we have plans of it on a roadmap to go to QBO Canada. Like I said, we wanted to make sure that we worked out the bugs. The software's been out for about 9 months now. We are just getting ready to freeze our first basically release, which we've had open for about the last 4 months, and we believe we have a very bulletproof system from that aspect. But yes, adding Zero Sage and QuickBooks in Canada is definitely on the roadmap, and we'll see that happening here soon.
And then what about when you go add more than 3 clients, or if you add a client for a little bit and then scale back, can you add on additional companies, and what that's a great question. To add your 4th client, it's $15. I think when you get to more than 25 clients, it's only $5 per client. I think after your 11th client, it's $10. So when you add more clients, the price basically drops.
anywhere from 15 to 10 to 5. So you can just visit our pricing page to learn more about our pricing, but our pricing is per company. So guess what? You can add as many users as you want. You can add your whole accounting firm staff. You can add the business employees, and there's only a cost per company file, not per user.
Rob, and I think, the value of the data mesh alone is worth it, not to mention the communication tool aspect of it and the milestones and all the other things. Just getting those industry specific, calculations and everything, I think is definitely a tool that's well worth having in our toolbox for working with our clients. I know Pam mentioned, why would the client use this through their accountant instead of using it directly to save money? First of all, your client's probably not going to find this on their own. That's what we're there to help them with. They're usually busy just running their business. They look to us to try to help them with things. And this is a great opportunity to bring a lot of value to that client. Like Rob mentioned, using it within their company and their employees and setting up those users and restricting their access to things that they need. And then our communication with the client as well. I mean, I just think it is awesome. And I hope
Michelle,
you all,
I'd like to just add that real quick. Your clients most likely don't know those important KPIs that they need for their business. So therefore they're going to turn to you. And here's one of the questions that we ask. If a business client becomes a customer of ours, the first question that we ask is, who's their accountant? Because we are going to take that business client and we're going to basically make sure they're partnered with their accountant with this system.
That's great. Yeah, because they don't know what these things are and what they're looking at and stuff. So that's awesome. And I know Jessica put a link to a webinar y'all are doing on Thursday, and you all please reach out to them. They'll schedule one-on-one demos, answering your questions, demo with you and your client. Just reach out to them, and they're there to help you learn more about it. It is really worth your time to learn about this tool if you're wanting, especially if you're wanting to provide those advisory services for your clients.
No, definitely.
Dan?
I just wanted to thank you both for putting this all together in the last second, and for everyone who joined us on an off week of the QB Power Hour. This is great for joining us, and I really appreciate the valuable information. I'm going to go sign up now.
Well, and Michelle and Dan, I just want to thank you guys both for being industry leaders. Michelle, thank you for believing in Path and myself and our company. And we look forward to helping other accounting professionals become, that advisory, professional, because I believe that's where we can really make a difference, is going out there and helping those small businesses be successful.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Dan. Don't forget, next week we have AP enhancements with Relay. So we would love to see you join us here at noon Eastern for that. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rob, again. And Jessica in the background, thank you as well. I hope you guys all have a great day. See you next week. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the QB Power Hour podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our Facebook group. You can find those resources and much more at qbpowerhour.com.